The listeners and the viewers and the readers need to hear the message of the gospel. They need to hear Christian music that inspires them. They need to be able to turn on the television, the radio, or the internet and hear that there's hope in the gospel.
In a time of great challenge and transformation, the National Religious Broadcasters, NRB, emerged as a beacon of hope and resilience. Born from a clash between the burgeoning evangelical Christian movement and mainline Protestant denominations, NRB's story is one of faith, freedom, and the relentless pursuit of a voice in the American landscape. The 1940s marked a crisis in American radio broadcasting. Mainline Protestant leaders, fearing the influence of independent evangelical preachers, lobbied for regulations to restrict their access to the radio spectrum.
You could only program in the public sector, you could only go for 30 minutes, you couldn't fundraise, and you had to be approved by local or national church councils.
This threat to religious freedom galvanized evangelical broadcasters. Pioneers like William Ward Eyre and Paul Rader, whose broadcasts had already captivated millions, found themselves at a crossroads. The Federal Council of Churches, advocating for exclusive control of religious broadcasts, succeeded in pushing evangelicals off national networks. In response, 150 evangelical leaders convened at Chicago's Moody Memorial Church, birthing NRB in 1944 with a constitution, bylaws, a statement of faith, and an ethical code. This coalition began an arduous journey to reclaim their place in the public sphere.
This organization was incorporated to address those concerns about independent pastors or churches who wanted to communicate across this new medium of radio.
NRB's early efforts paid off. By the late 1940s, the tide began to turn. ABC Network's decision to reverse the ban on paid religious broadcasting opened the doors once more. Evangelical broadcasters seized this opportunity, and soon, evangelical programming regained its momentum, reaching vast audiences. The 1960s and 70s witnessed an explosion of Christian broadcasting into television. Evangelists like Rex Humbard and Oral Roberts, replicating the success of radio, began purchasing airtime directly from local stations, circumventing network skepticism. This era saw unprecedented growth, with Christian television becoming a mainstay in American homes.
It really impacted the culture to say that religion was important and my faith was as important as secular entertainment.
Another reason the NRB has flourished is because it's the gathering place for Christians of like calling. They're a place to develop friendships, be inspired, be motivated, renew vision, and in our case, it was to build our ministry brand. So I think that providing access and fellowship are two of the really important reasons that the NRB has flourished.
The 1970s heralded a new chapter for NRB. It was no longer just a broadcasting association. It became a formidable political force. President Gerald Ford's address at the NRB Convention in 1975 and again in 1976 underscored this newfound influence. NRB began shaping the national conversation, bringing evangelical perspectives to the forefront of American politics. Dr. Benjamin Armstrong, NRB's executive director at the time, encapsulated this era as a call for evangelicals to become more active in shaping society, marking a shift from passive observation to active engagement.
NRB became a strong voice for those dedicated communicators and opened the door for amazing opportunities for us to use the powerful tools to deliver God's Word.
The 1980s ushered in a golden age for religious broadcasting. Under the Reagan administration, Christian radio and television thrived. New stations and networks emerged at an unprecedented rate, with over 1,100 Christian radio stations and 300 television stations by the decade's end. Influential programs like Focus on the Family with Dr. James Dobson gained national prominence. The Christian Broadcasting Network soared, becoming a major cable system. Evangelical media was not just surviving, it was setting the cultural agenda. As the millennium approached, NRB faced new challenges. The success of Christian TV attracted scrutiny, prompting a recommitment to integrity and accountability.
NRB is committed to truth, God's truth, truth from God's Word, because Jesus said, "The truth will set you free."
We're in an increasingly anti-God culture, and to be acceptable, there is enormous pressure to adjust the gospel to fit into that culture. But it won't work. It's a square peg in a round hole. And as Christian communicators, we have a responsibility to God and to the people we reach to stand strong for biblical truth.
And so we helped form the Evangelical Council of Financial Accountability and a number of other organizations, along with our own code of ethics, to help ministries really do the best they can at what God's called them to do.
The broadcasting landscape was evolving, with radio experiencing a resurgence and television networks becoming professionally managed corporations. NRB's focus shifted. Not just advocating for access to airwaves, but building trust and setting high ethical standards. The 1993 convention, held in Los Angeles for the first time, symbolized a strategic shift from a political to a cultural battle for media access.
The NRB Association can be a powerful spotlight, shining light down new paths and providing godly wisdom and professional insight to accomplish God's purpose to share Christ with our world.
In today's rapidly evolving digital landscape, NRB's commitment has never wavered. It stands as a vanguard, fiercely defending the right of Christian evangelicals to be heard and using its power to convene Christian communicators.
I just loved the NRB conventions. I never missed one of the chapter meetings because they were always so inspirational and so, well, just wonderful to meet the people. Wonderful to be engaged with them in the same pursuit.
NRB members are singularly unified by a common goal to spread the gospel and reach the world for Jesus Christ. In a world increasingly indifferent, sometimes even hostile to the gospel, the role of NRB is more critical than ever.
Well, certainly, I think today our freedom of speech is relatively strong, but it's in jeopardy. There's no question about that. And NRB plays an important role in defending that freedom of speech.
It's not just about preserving a legacy. It's about amplifying a voice, your voice, in the corridors of power, across digital realms and in the hearts of people everywhere.
The NRB has long recognized that freedom isn't free, that every single generation has to defend the freedoms that have been passed down to us. It's now more important than ever to defend our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly. These basic freedoms that we have inherited, we need to preserve for future generations.
For over 80 years, NRB has stood as a champion for the voice of Christian communicators, your voice. From its inception amidst regulatory battles to its current efforts to preserve media access in the governmental, legal, and corporate arenas, NRB has been a relentless defender of freedom of speech. Today, your voice is more crucial than ever. In a world where the clamor to silence it grows louder, NRB stands firm, echoing the outcry of God's people. Our nation, our world, is at a pivotal moment, yearning for the truth and hope that your voice can bring.
For 80 years, the NRB has been representing the voice of its members. We live in a time that some may think is bleak, but it's really bright. The opportunities are more than ever for the gospel to go forward. I look at the future of NRB and NRB's members as strong for the glory of God.
It's the way the NRB family is. NRB to me has been a family in the endeavor of trying to do better by learning from others how to fulfill God's call on my life.
Will you choose to stand up and use your voice? As we move forward, remember, our unity in this cause, our commitment to this mission makes us stronger. Together we can ensure that the message of faith, hope, and love continues to resonate, transforming lives and shaping futures. NRB, for over 80 years, fighting for your voice and continuing the legacy for generations to come.